What's up, guys? Welcome back to C&B Bassin. Today I want to talk about using a swim bait in a finesse form. And what I mean by that is, when you're finessing everything, you get everything smaller. You just use smaller baits, smaller weights, and everything like that. So what I'm talking about is like when I'm going out in like this fall transition in the fall time. Fish are kind of scattered everywhere. But what I like to do is I like to try to go out, try to find some bait fish, and then when I find them, I try to match the hatch. And with matching the hatch, most of the time I'll start out, what if I match it up, like I got right here. I've got the driftwood. This is a 3.0. I'm trying to think of what I forgot what he calls this, but it's like the Kitech, but it is driftwood custom baits, and this also is driftwood. This is a 3.8, and so normally what I'll try to do is try to start out small and either start out small and try to see what's going. If they're not hitting that, I just step it up also a little bit bigger. Using small swim baits is a great way to get a lot of hits, especially like in the fall time when all the bass and stuff like that is that they're all kind of scattered out everywhere. Normally, like what I try to do is like when I'm using these smaller ones, like I'll use like a belly weighted swim bait hook, and I'll just throw it out. Like if I see like bass busting up on top of the water chasing the bait, normally what I'll do with that is I'll throw an underspin, because what that underspin is going to do is going to make this bait stand out in a big old bait ball. And so what the bass is going to do is, as they're coming trying to attack that bait ball, what they're doing, they're trying to pick out something that looks different, something that they can focus in on. So having that underspin, especially like if you've seen them blowing up on a bait ball on top of the water, what I like to do is just throw an underspin. Also, when I see that, I also will try, if I'm only kind of getting like smaller hits, or not smaller hits, but smaller fish doing that. That there's going to be bigger fish that's going to be down below that bait ball and stuff like that, and all they're going to do is just be picking up scraps. So throwing these the swim baits and the finesse baits, I mean, it is as easy as can be. What I like to do, again, like if they're busting on the bait ball, busting them up on top, and so you know that they're up in the water column, what I'll do is you throw it out and you just kind of just burn it back. And then but if they're down on the bottom, and what I like to do is I'll throw it out, let the bait sink all the way to the bottom, and all I do is just slow reel that sucker back, just a slow crank, because all that's doing is just kind of just moving along across the bottom. And what the big fish are going to think is that that's some kind of scrap that's kind of just dropped down from the bait, and it's a wounded fish and stuff like that. So the bigger fish are going to jump on that that bait. And so but also talking about the hits on throwing these any kind of swim baits and stuff, is going to be more or less like like throwing a Texas rig, throwing a worm out, or throwing a jig. It's just going to be kind of a subtle little thump, and it's not going to every now and then you'll get one that's going to be just kind of and just nail it, but for the most part it's just going to be a subtle kind of just a thump. And so when you don't, I don't want you to go out there and just thinking that I'm going to have something just kind of just nail this to and that's what I'm looking for, is just that nail. You don't want to do that. You want to kind of wait, and sometimes it's not even the thump. It's as you're slow reeling it, it's just a weight. It's just something just like it just stops, and so you have that instant weight. I want to kind of explain when I would use just a weighted swim bait hook or a swim jig to an underspin. I kind of explained the underspin a little bit to y'all about it, but again, the underspin, mainly I will throw the underspin is kind of like when I see bait fish and I see that they're the bass are actively going after that bait or the bait ball. So I will throw this because the blade bait, I mean, it really doesn't look like anything natural, but it's going to help them be able to pick this bait out to where this is the bait they're going to want, instead of just throwing just a regular swim jig without anything. You see them? So, and then throwing the weighted swim bait hook. Normally people call them the belly weighted hooks. I'll throw this, especially if I have a lot of cover or anything like that, or stuff that I can get snagged up on, because you can you make this weedless, so it's going to tend to not to get hung up as much as what this would, or even the underspin with it being an open hook. But with the open hooks, you are going to have a better hookup ratio. And so with it being Texas rig, you're going to want to go with a heavier rod, a little stiffer rod, to where you can, when you hook set, you're going to be able to penetrate through and be able to get the hook into the bass. So on the retrieves, how I like to do it is normally I just throw it out, and if I'm trying to stay on the bottom, I'll throw it out and just kind of just creep it back. When I'm swimming it, I try to do like a just not fast speed, but kind of in the middle, just a good little constant speed coming back at, and then if they're not liking that, sometimes you can slow it down enough, or as you're reeling it in, just give it a little pop, just give it some kind of action moving back. Sometimes they might want it to where it is to where you're burning it back, and that's going to be how they're going to want it. It's one of those, again, it's just trial by error, and eventually you're going to find out how they're going to want it. The bass will tell you how they want it, and so but again, there's many different kind of swim baits. I mean, everybody in the world is making these little things now, so not to say that you got to go out there and buy the most expensive swim baits or not like that, but you do want to be able to have a swim bait that's going to, when you have it on there, that's going to have real natural looking kicking. Comparable, these are actually comparable to the Kitech. Actually, I like these a little bit better, because the Kitechs, you only get about 3 to 4 basses that you catch with it. With these, I can normally get 5 to 7, and what you think, well, 5 to 7 is really not much more than 3 and 4, but when you're having to go out and spend money on Kitechs or on swim baits and stuff like that, the more fish you can get out of one, the better off you are. And so again, with the underspin, Normally I will try to burn them back some, and again, you got to kind of just play around with your with the speed and your retrieve to be able to see what they're going to tell you to do. And another thing is like if you're going, if let's say you're catching them on this 3.0 and you're catching a lot of fish, but they're kind of smaller fish, what I will do is I'll step it up. This here is a Pro Z bait. This is a 4.2 swim bait. What I'll do is I'd like switch it up to this, try to get a bigger bite, because what you're going to do going from this smaller bait to this bait, you're not going to get as many hits with this bait as the smaller one, but I guarantee you the hits that you're going to get on this bigger swim bait are going to be bigger fish, better quality fish. So if you get into where you're catching a lot of them, but it's just not the size that you're looking for, and you know that there's fish right there, I'd always switch, go to a bigger one, go to a little bit heavier weight, and then just don't change anything up with your retrieve with the bigger one as you did with the smaller one. Just keep everything the same, just adjust everything bigger. And with that is pretty much all that I do with my swim baits during the fall transitions. I mean, it's real simple once you kind of get it. It's a real easy bait to learn. It is it's not that hard. You just kind of got to play with your retrieve to kind of see how they're wanting it. And again, I start out matching the hatch and then go up from there, because again, if you're catching a lot of smalls, you will always want to move up in the bait size. Then you'll start catching a whole lot more of the bigger fish. And so with that being said, I hope y'all have a blessed day, and I hope to see y'all out on the water. God bless.